So Nate, we in my YouTube video on the structure creation, we were talking about the Eka maps and going up from there to look at the structured bubble universe and what that means and what that looks like. And we got up to the level of the Krystar, which is Cos-My-yah Cos-min-yahas, and we kind of stopped there. So we were going to look today at and keep on going because the activations that are happening now have to do with the things that are up above that, and so it's tough to talk about before you talk about it. So I don't know where everybody's at with their like knowledge of plasma body, and so this might be a conversation that is takes a while or not so much, but this is the beginning basically of plasma body activation, and that we don't need to make that bigger. Does this look familiar to you? This lotus structure?
I know I've seen it before.
So
I would be very challenged to explain it.
Okay, so we have our chakra system, yeah? And when during a certain time cycle, when you individuate out from source, and you go through your normal organic evolution, you get to a point at the edge of the parameter field where there's a turnaround, and that's where all this stuff about Messiah and the ascended masters, where all this language comes from, is actually when you get to that point in your evolution is the turnaround where you start to go back to source, and that is also the same point of when plasma body starts to activate. And so all that really this progression along these time vectors is frequency accretion. We are accreting new frequencies into our template and building what are called flashline sequences. Flashlines are the particle, which we talked about in that last video too, that are flashing off and on all the time. And a time vector is a specific flashline sequence. And so as you collect all your flashline sequences, like you could think of them radiating out from the center, like a clock, as you collect all these vectors, you can move along them, and you become more free to move through the unified field. So this is what ascension is about. And so that's a little back. So we're turning around. We've gone through, we're collecting, we're building our Merkaba, we're turning around, and we're starting what's called Adashi return cycles. So this is the very beginning, and this is what starts to happen in your anatomy when that happens. In your chakras, the center of your chakras, which they meet at the little crystal in there. And inside that crystal seal is a seed. And when plasma body activation begins, the first thing that happens is that seed begins to germinate and bud. So you'll get a little lotus bud inside of your chakra, and then it'll start to bloom, and it turns into these plasma generating lotus structures inside of each of your chakras that are actually, it's actually your sensory apparatus for your plasma anatomy. Every petal is made of an arc of energy, and it's a sensing, it's a receiver and a transmitter of a specific frequency, and every petal has its own specific frequency. And there's
Which is where there's 12 senses, right? We only know about 5 right now.
Yep, that's right. And there's a lot. And so we have these lotuses not just in our main chakras, but we have them in our eyeballs, and like we have this whole other, like you could see there's a special kind of put together one that comes around our head, because we have 3 different chakras. 1, 2, 3, 6, 7, 8, 9, 4 chakras all in our head here. And so we get this like crazy looking lotus activation in our eyeballs too. And this is what in the Crystal River prayer, when it says one christened eye, this is what it means, is this lotus activation, and the beginning of, you know, being able to sense and perceive all of these frequencies that this is able to, you know, connect with. So this is calling it the tryptophasic nervous system. So our plasma body, like it is like it interfaces right with our nervous system, and our fascia. It's, let's go down here. Okay, so next, after this, the individual chakras activate, we start to get in the whole field. This is the 48-point myotic lotus body, it's called. So the myotic plasmas are the sound-based plasmas, and we get this lotus structure that forms in our fields. And the next phase of this would be the activation of this, called the sphere of Cos-My-yah, or the mission sphere. In our field, it looks like a million glittering stars. It looks like we're inside of a bubble that's made out of all these beautiful, like, little glittery stars. And when we breathe, we pull frequency in from those stars into our heart of Ephema here, which is inside the 3rd chakra. So this whole business here of the myotic plasmas, these are the plasmas that are going to interface from internal creation. They interface to us through our Rasha dark matter body. So that's just how it connects into, and then so it comes from there through Rasha template into our atomic bodies, light bodies here. And then this will lead to this is called the shield of Alhambra and the seal of the crystal Reyes Alhambra. And full activation here, back in Cathara, we learned about the crux and theta, right? And the 0G field. This activates that 0G field. Zero density, crux and theta. And this is occurring through, this is called the 7777 flame activation. So it's a merging of chakra energies. So it's chakras 4 and 3, chakras 5 and 2, chakras 6 and 1, and then chakra 7 is what creates those 4 sevens, and starts to build this flame of Alhambra. So you have this like flame burner down around your feet. It looks like a gas stove flame, like with all the little flames in a circle, but this is a white flame. And the white flame of Alhambra activates first down here around your feet, and then big in your field. And after that, we get to the Elysian flame, which Leona is familiar with, but you see this beautiful swirl that activates and comes up through the center of your mission sphere here. And these are all the beginning phases of plasma body activation. And then, so what we get to then is eventually the Trua body activation. So our plasma body has a lot of anatomy. It's not like just this one thing. So this Trua body, I kind of went fast through that stuff, but this is really where a lot of our study is focused, and this Trua body is what we are working to activate to use now. This is what we need to get activated this is how we can travel. This is our mode of transport, because some of us, here will be able to biologically walk through the gates that are opening, um, and that's awesome. But certainly everyone can go through it in your Trua body, and so learning to focus your consciousness there, which is a layer located. So this is a 5-layer thing. We'll talk about what these are, but the Trua body is actually one layer inside of this number 3 layer, which is the schema, the conscious mind, bone memory matrix, or outer fascia, which we'll talk about that stuff. But the Trua layer, or is it in the schema or the Lidfar? Yeah, it's in there. And so it interfaces, though, with our water molecules. And that's very interesting to me because of how, we know how conscious water is and how quickly it changes based on our thoughts. Yeah, we can change the crystal and structure of water with focused intention, and so that implies that we can work with our Trua body is very close, is what I'm saying. It's not some far off thing that we have to spend 4 lifetimes as a monk on a mountain to try and touch. It's like right here, it's an energetic skin that surrounds water molecules, and it talks. It's like a connection point. It talks to the deity planes of internal creation and the Effie, and it talks to literally the water molecules that are right here in our body and in the water vapor in the air around us. And what's this say? Here we go.
I was trying to find a picture of it too, but the Rashatan code, as I came to understand a long time ago, that's what this spirit body of water looks like. And that's why it's also connected to the same structures we're studying that we interface with.
Yeah, well,
also us too.
Yeah, that makes sense. That would make sense. So here is a zoomed in. This is, you can see this says Trua body. It's here, right there, as a layer running in these other layers, inside of these other layers here. Which Leona, we talked about these, didn't we? It was in the other video. It was in the plasma video. We were talking about these, and these are actually these correspond with the 5 plasms, which are the pre-plasma, precursor to plasma. Do you guys see me, or do you just see the screen, or do you see both?
There's two screens, so we can see you and the other screen. It's just small. I don't know if there's a way to adjust this. This is the first time I've done it. Telegram.
Okay.
They're all kind of similar.
Okay, cool. So let's see. Do you guys want to do you have any like questions that have popped up in your head? I'm getting down to where we're going, but I said a lot of stuff.
Yeah, I feel like there's more to be said about the fascia, and I don't know that much about it. If you want to unzip that.
Are you asking what is our fascia like in our bodies?
Yeah, and what's it compounded of? Yeah,
so the fascia is a really interesting part of us that is often ignored. Fascia is a word that basically just means connective tissue. It's so when we think of our bodies, we typically think of them as being made out of cells, right? Cells that make organs, basically. But there's also all the tissue that's actually outside of the cell that's holding all the cells together. And depending on where in your body you're talking about, those are different types of fascia. So fascia is like the stuff that's in between our cells that keeps us like all together. And that's interesting to me because they've described the aurora continuum and these plasma um, plasma what do you call it? Plasma frequencies or spectra as being located in the spaces between. So when I heard that it was also connected to our fascia, I said, "Oh, well that makes sense. The fascia is the stuff that's in between all of our cells, right? And between our organs, and it's the so like our skin is considered connective tissue, right? And inside of it, it's got layers, and there's all different sorts of fascia that hold it together. So like our skin has one kind of fascia holding it together, and our bone has another kind of fascia that's holding the bone cells all together. So that's what fascia is in our body. And it's like that's just like a really, quick explanation, and it's largely been ignored in medicine as far as I know. However, I think that lately people have been realizing that it's like really cool. Like there's actually a lot of it's actually doing a lot of stuff that we haven't really ever paid attention to. And um, one of the roles that it's playing here we can see is it is in the place where these these plasm frequencies talk to in our body. It's the interface point. And what that means is that the fascia in our body, when we can consciously remember this stuff, they become gateways. They open, and you like dive yourself down in your plasma body, down inside your bone, and it's a portal to these places. Um, and that is very cool. And Nate, you might remember from freedom teachings when were you around for learning the Rasha body, the 15-layer Rasha anatomy? So are you familiar with the Alon, Shalon, Kalon, all the on and the orons, the ascos? So those build up. So that's where these interface. So the brown, where are we? Yeah, okay. The Oron band. So the Orons would be on the outside of the Rasha body, in like an orb,
wow.
like an orb cloud. Okay, so 15 layers of the Rasha body gets divided into 5 groups of 3, right? Just like the Rasha divides into the density levels, the 5 densities. It's got so the 15-layer Rasha body becomes, like in my mind, a 5-layer plasm body, so to speak. And so the number 5 layer, which would be the outer layer of that, which would correspond to the orons, right, of the Rasha body, which are all on the outside. They're the outer orbs, sparks you could call them, that go around the outside, corresponds with this number 5, the Ariona Carusa. This is the outer Tanchidi membrane, the Chismatic. So the Chismatic template is the next phase when we activate the lotus body anatomy, the plasma. After that, those lotuses, then comes this Chismatic template, which is the template that connects the plasmas and plasms and what comes before, that normally only are active in internal creation. There's this Chismatic template that is an interface that allows those frequencies to come out and connect into external creation. Okay, so the Chismatic template, there's 3 layers to it, and it's a step down part of the plasma anatomy that allows this connection to us all the way out here in our atomic external bodies, all the way into that internal creation where our original authentic identity still exists as it was in its first, as we first emerged from source, when we all had a purpose for being created. Yeah. And so that authentic identity of ours, a quantum of that always remains in internal creation, and it is, and we're able to connect to that and remember who we are. And the Chismatic template is the I don't know, phone line, you could say, connection point.
That's pretty good. I think that was perhaps one of the most concise and precise ways I've ever heard that explained. I did not realize that those older components, but really all of this is, it's so beautifully structured and coherent all the way through this. And sometimes I notice too, because you're describing the fascia of the plasma body here, and Yimmy, is it Yimmy? Your question? Yeah. Nice to meet you from the other side of the pond, by the way. But there's something really interesting to me here. Like, just like you said, we're all, the fabric of the stuff of the manifest universe is particle units and particle grids. And I heard a really excellent metaphor that's almost not even a metaphor, is that, you know, those marquee signs above a door that says, it looks like the letters are saying, come on in. Mm-hmm. We are open. That is, it's helpful for me, for example, to understand, because it breaks it down in a way like, oh, I know what it means. It looks like the letters are moving, but it's a flashline sequence that gives the illusion of movement, and that exact function of that is what we do when we walk around, get in a car, or travel. Not using our body, is we're actually moving through it, but we're all fixed points of consciousness in the whole universe. That is like fixed scalar, is what that term means. You're fixed to itself, and the illusion of movement is what we're seeing. And then also, to add on to what you mentioned about the fascia at different layers, the fascia we can understand in this body that holds my ligaments to the muscles and the bones and all that together. This is the manifestation of it, so we can understand in harmonic universe 1, in density 1, where this body is. But the fascia is, it's not even a metaphor. It's literally what holds the glue that holds everything together is fascia, and the different layers of bodies, and the counter-rotating spin. Let's say density 1 is spinning on this axis, right? There's a 45-degree angle spin, and that's what all the Keylon codes look like. They're showing a way to visualize what the spin rate is, and the boundaries between the different densities and dimensions is their opposing spin rates. That's to hold it together, and the fascia is what keeps it doing that, you know? So the more that I find that I get into this stuff, that I realize there's a lot of vocabulary and a lot of terminology, but thank you for reminding me, all of this stuff is inside our templates. It's all inside our DNA templates. We're consciously learning how to label things, but it's an interior science in that the laboratory is me. It is, my consciousness is the lab that we're doing this stuff in, and it takes my own self-directed work, hopefully not alone, with a community of other students that want to learn this, like Erin, I thought I had some sort of minor talent for making a couple feet, but you're on some other kind of level where there's dots that are there for me, but you're like, boop, see this one? That one goes with that one, and that one goes with that one. I'm like, oh my God, how do you know that? But we all, I
do like to play those connect the dots.
Yeah. It's a fun game. Anyway, I'm done. Yeah, I just wanted to add a little on there.
It is, yeah, thanks. So we have the orons, and then we have the alons, shalons, and kalons, which gives us 4, right, Nate? And then we have in these teachings, we find out about this 5th one called the Chion band, related to the chi waves and everything chi that is related to Effie. So we have these chions. That is what, let's see. We're going to find it. Well, it's down here. But I'm going through this fast because all of this gets like all broken down in details later. But I wanted to go through, I wanted to have all these diagrams on the screen just for our like visual templates. Just because your body knows what all this means, and your plasma anatomy takes all this in. And so just looking at it will help you next time when you come back to it. It makes a little more sense every time because it's integrating into your template, because your template already knows this, and it looks at this and it says, oh, I know what that means. I know what to do with that. And so as your own field starts to come into this alignment that it brings the conscious understanding with it. Okay, this is what it looks like. This is what it's supposed to look like. We're supposed to be on fire like this. This is the coronasphere. This is the coronasphere of our what are they calling it here? The plasmatic markature fields and embodied fascia layers of the eternal, authentic, Elassian deity human body. This is the original human form. Had its plasma body activated already. So once you come out from source and you go through one of those cycles of return, where you go through Adachi return cycles back to source, then you have all this activated in your anatomy, and then you can go then incarnate, and you already have this connection. You keep it with you. And so the human template had this. The human body had its conscious connection to the deity plane still. And so this flame field, just as a side note, because we talk about this in the Bright Flower group a lot, about the magnetosphere around the planet. And like most of us are familiar, we know like the solar flares are happening, and we see the Schumann resonance is changing and spiking. And the poles, right, the magnetic poles are going through this controlled reversal. But also we see these disruptions in the magnetosphere and evidence that the magnetosphere is deteriorating, which every single person who I listen to and follow who reports on this space weather stuff, they're all very gloom and doom about the destruction of that magnetosphere. But I am a cheerleader for it, because I know that it is so that's what this is. This purple band here. So in this work, they call it the banshee. So we have mutations in this template that this is why we don't remember this stuff and why it's not working. It hasn't been working right. And all of the Metatronic stuff that was talked about in the Freedom Teachings is that distortion. That distortion is rooted all the way back into these templates, which is why we had to go through that entire progression of work to be able to fix it. And so that's what's happening. And this is where we see an illustration of the magnetosphere. So it's showing you this on the body, but this is the same on the planet, because they're always the same. Whatever is in the planetary Templar will be in your Templar if you're on the planet, because you had to take it on to get here. So whether we're talking about the body or the planet, it's the same. And they call it the banshee. And this is the reversed false feminine. This is the inorganic magnetic field. That is the false feminine. We call it that femme fatale, the mentalic consciousness, right?
Oh, wow. I've never heard that one before.
Oh, really?
Like fatally.
Yeah, yeah, the fatally.
Wow.
Yep. And yep. And this is where that anchored. This is where it's in our fields, and because it's and all this means like is that the polarity is reversed. It's supposed to be positive. It's supposed to carry a positive charge, and instead it's carrying a negative charge. And this really screws everything up. So if you think about it, right, our electrons have a negative charge, but we know that electricity is the masculine, is the positive, right? Like, so these electrons, it would make more sense for electrons to be the positive charge carrier in my mind. And that is actually the case. This is what is one of the like hallmark signs of what's called dead light, has this reversal. Shona light versus chalet living light, which has its polarities where they're supposed to be. So this is what because the planetary field is holding this reversal, its coronasphere is shut off. Everything is supposed to be on fire. And so our scientists look out at stars and suns and think nothing could possibly live on that because it's too hot. Well, this is how things live on suns. It's because when you incarnate onto that star or that sun, you take on that same template, right? And so you carry that same flame field in your body too. You're perfectly tuned to the frequency of that star, and you don't burn up when you live on it.
So cool.
Yeah. And so as we see the magnetosphere dissipate, we should see the restoration of the coronasphere planetarily and in our bodies. And we can expedite that process by doing this with ourselves, because that helps the planet to do it too. Faster.
You know what's cool, Erin? Like you just hit on something for me that, okay, we're learning the interior components of all this exterior stuff. And because I learned this a long time ago, is that everything that exists on Earth is in your body.
Yep.
Everything. Every element is in there. Why is that? Because the contract that we have with Earth provided us a body that is a tissue capsule made out of what Earth provides for us. So if everywhere does that, of course, we're Earth beings, which is also why if people are waking up and they want to go to space, that memory that we can travel is there, but it's kind of asinine if you think about it, to be like, I'm gonna make this high pressure thing of metal and I'm gonna take my Earth suit out there. It's not made for that. It's so dangerous, you know. But also we're waking up to these memories of like, oh, our externalized technology has a thing that can help me get to that goal. But maybe the real trick is like even what you just were talking about with the distortion of the divine female in the plasma body of not just the Earth, but like the solar system too.
Oh yeah, it's cosmoversal. It's cosmoversal.
Yeah, cosmoversal. Okay, so it's the whole matrix.
Yeah.
But this is a big lesson for me too, is that we have all this stuff out here. As soon as I choose to other this and be like, that thing out there is the problem. And how that manifests a lot of time, especially in the distortion of what we know as male and female, a lot of people like in a male body be like, women or politicians or the other, whatever the thing is. And if you're female, be like, man, right? Men. But it's all in us. This is our imprint that we can heal collectively and individually and also together, where we remember that the othering of things, it's all the hologram we're experiencing. And my sister also, her name is Effie, which is, we talked about, that's kind of amazing because she doesn't follow these teachings. She appreciates that I'm into it. But I was like, you picked Effie as your name several years ago? That's cool. But she said, this rings with me a lot. She said, whenever I'm in a situation, the question I ask myself is, well, I guess it's not a question, it's just a reminder. If I am not the problem, there is no solution. If I am facing an external dissonance in a relationship, for example, if I don't take full responsibility for the dissonance of it, there literally is no solution. I can get lost in the weeds of all that is out there forever, literally infinitely. But if I can internalize that and be like, how am I co-creating this experience? That will actually lead me to the lessons to downstop all this stuff, however it would manifest for me. But as soon as I start othering and I make that mistake, which is so easy to do, it's over. Like, there's no solution. It's like I'm too weak to punch my way out of a wet paper bag sometimes.
Yeah, and that's what the attitudes and responsibilities teach us, right? Is that taking responsibility. And that is a very interesting thing, because let's look at what are the attitudes and responsibilities on an energetic level. Because for me, when I first,
why are there 12?
When
They're
I first
also related to the sense organ at the end of the lotus petal.
Yep, and when I first found them, I mean, the VARs, virtues, attitudes, responsibilities. To me, there's nothing else in the work that shifts your 3D conscious perspective more than that stuff. And understanding all of this is not going to help you if your attitude doesn't shift. If you maintain the same perspective, you can study this stuff till you're an expert, and it's not going to make a bit of difference of what gates you can get through, because it's not in you. It's not in your body. You're not embodying it, right? What did Ayesha call it? Mental masturbation.
Yeah.
It's not going to get you anywhere. But the
I was like, man, I know so much. I got it going on. It's fine.
This is not the right spot. Wait, is it down further?
What pages are you on now?
Well, so this is page 53. We could look at this. I'm pretty sure there's another one, though, that I wanted, but...
Oh, the cathedrals?
Well, yes. Those are the outer wheel of freedom. So this is a 5 ring wheel, right? And we were just looking at the 5 layers of plasma body, right? These correspond with each other. The 5 rings here, we can see them. They're labeled as we see the Ludfars, Schema, Dreama layers are the same layers that we were just looking at in that plasma body anatomy, right? And so I'm going to see if there's the picture I'm actually looking for just really quick. At the core here is where we have cathedral. You see the cathedral. The cathedral. These are cathedral gates, right? The network. It looks like this. Five total, but there's 4 on the outside and 1 at the center. Okay? Down here, this is the same thing we're looking at. Here's the 4 on the outside and the 1 at the center. So these outer 4 are located in this 5th ring, which is that Coronosphere violet shield ring, okay? 6 and 7, Sun 6 and 7, it goes with, and then we have number 1 here at the core, which corresponds with the number 1 layer of the plasma body, and then we have the 3 in between. So these 3 in between. Do you remember the DNA template looks like a clock, has those spike, like the DNA for our outer is a shield with codes, right? That the DNA. I'll find the picture of it. This is the plasma DNA template. You could make an equivalent to that, and it's made out of. So we have the number 1 here. Let's zoom in. Then we have. It's called here the wheel of discipline. Okay, and it's only showing number 3, 6, 9, and 12. But there's 12 spheres in this ring. That's what I was looking for, is the other diagram. And they call it here the wheel of disciplines, but the disciplines are the same thing as the attitudes. The attitudes and the disciplines are the same. This next wheel is the wheel of, you could say, responsibilities. And there's 12 spheres here too. Outside of this, then we have the wheel of virtues, and there's 12 here. And so the point is that activating embodying the VARs, the virtues, the attitudes, and the responsibilities, is quite literally activating the fullness of your plasma template. Those are literally the frequencies that your plasma template is built out of. Does that make sense?
Yep.
And so,
you know, this touches on something that I guess this is really important for me. Some others might find value with it, but I've always felt like this sense for most of my life. I'm 45 now. I've felt this sense that I'm not doing enough. I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it right. I'm not doing this. I'm not doing that. When really, it's the whole thing is about holding the space of peace. And the attitudes are exactly how we do that. You don't actually have to do anything. You have to be it. Mm-hmm. And a lot of it is just being in a patient, grounded space. That's it.
Yeah, isn't it amazing that all we need to do is sit here and stop worrying? If I would stop worrying about what I'm not doing, I would be doing exactly what I'm supposed to be doing.
Yeah, I think the bars give that pressure mediation for you to sit in isness long enough to stop the mind from jumping in, constantly trying to fill the space up, because it'll always find a issue to bury itself in.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I think I said it wrong. Okay, I want to correct myself real quick. I think maybe Leona can tell me, because she's been studying the VARs more. I think actually the virtues are the core ring of 12 here, and the victories are something else. Do those correspond with Leona? Is Leona still here?
I'm here, yeah.
Do the victories correspond with a certain category on the virtue, on that? What's there? We have the virtues and the vices, and then isn't there something else? Another column.
The disciplines are our dream consciousness. I don't know anything about it outside of the chart that I have. Mm-hmm. So it says victories, dream-A, Moskin, and it's dream consciousness. It's 15 noble traits connecting to the virtues, attitudes, and responsibilities. That's all I know about it.
All right.
I mean, I know what each of them are for each, because it's all in the chart, so I know what each of those 15 are. But that's all I know.
Okay.
Oh, this is where that word you taught me the other day, Erin. My favorite word of the year so far, immaculation.
Yes.
And which is a responsibility. And also, what was the other one? It was
ephemeralization.
Ephemeralization. Can you elaborate on that? They're such cool words.
I've never
heard them before.
Yeah, I can. Let me remember to get the answer to this. Which one corresponds with the virtues?
That would be immaculation.
Well, no. I mean, which wheel? Which one of these wheels?
That says it's 15. It's one of the density 5 ones.
No,
I'd love to speak to then what you were saying, Nate.
Yeah.
About all that we need to do is just be at peace and trust. So in my studying of the virtues, attitudes, and responsibilities, and then Erin helping me understand the Krystar activation, the elusive flame activation, the steps from the Cathara grid up to the Krystar. That, as well as a few other sources outside of Myotic science, helped me anchor this concept and recognition of God, source, consciousness experiencing through this body, through me, but also through literally everything, to the point where when I'm focused enough on the concept, everything is my skin. Literally everything I observe and everything that exists is just a form through which I, as God source I am, express and experience. And so that, yes, I still have a human body and I still have human experiences and emotions and challenges and overwhelm and all of those things. And I continue to allow myself to enjoy and experience all of that. And so I am these many different layers of identity, but being able now to have that strength of that core, like most anchored identity in, like, if I stripped away all of the layers, I couldn't strip away the fact that I am all, that I am the all-oneness. And so that's what I'm loving about this work, is while there are other authors that I read before I found Myotic science that kind of talked about this concept, I could get to a certain point with those concepts, like conceptually I could start to wear that perspective in only slight ways. But wow, yeah, what Myotic science offers with its details has helped take me to a much more embodiment of it, and there's still so much more to go, and I'm just enjoying, because I don't have to go anywhere. We don't have to do anything.
Yeah.
And so that's the enoughness, is knowing that, like, oh, this is all just an experience, this is all belonging, there's nothing that can ever happen or ever change to lose the fact that absolutely everyone and everything is all of it. So yeah.
I absolutely love it. You actually kind of made one of my eyes tear up. I'm just like, yes, thank you for the reminders. Another thing my sister shared with me too that adds to that is, this is a question at any moment of challenge shows up in my life, is what am I willing to give away my peace for? If I can answer that question in the moment, it stops doing all these things that we know what it means. I'm tilted. I'm twisted. I'm, like they mean, like my vertical line, I let it go. I passed over my peace. I made the choice to fly over it and go somewhere else where I wasn't holding this peaceful pace. So it's a very valuable question I've found. If I can ask myself, what am I willing to give away my peace for? The answer is very little, but my ego wants to do that all the time, labeling stuff.
So I found the thing I was talking about. So we have the sorry, excuse me. The 5 layers of the plasma body, right? That correspond with the 5 wheels. And these 5 categories are those 5 wheels. So at the very center are the virtues. So that would be like the number 1 wheel at the middle. Then the next wheel out are the attitudes. The next one's the responsibilities. And then the next one are called the noble traits. That was the column I was forgetting. Okay. Then we have the noble traits. And the 3, so we have each wheel has the 12, and then the 13, 14, 15, the extra 3 are located all at the core, and also all on the outside. But around the wheel you have the main 12, and so there are many ways to work with these things and combine them and study them. Like they pair together in different ways to create other things. And it's
like vices and virtues.
Combining the same way that combining like if when you combine, so like the virtues, these are all, everything 1 through 12, they also all have a corresponding element, right? Like we have air, water, fire, ether, um, has a corresponding symbol and these things. And so when you combine them, like in the power phase, the Elassian power phase code, when you combine, um, when you divide the 15 into 5 groups of 3 of those rays, the Arion Kaya Chi, Arion Raya Ki, they combine together depending how you divide them up to create something bigger. So the 15 can get divided into 3 groups of 5 each to create these power, like they call it, that's the Elassian power phase code that activates these neon standing waves, that change the Elassian flame, which is the flame, the flame, into the Elassian waters, which it becomes these still standing neon bubbles, essentially, versus the individual 15 currents that are running. So depending on how you combine these, you create something more, you create something bigger. So down so that's what I meant about, I don't know where that, but that's all I meant about combining them in different ways. But it's the activation of all of these. This says all Messiahonic Adashi adepts. So we talked about what that means, right? Carry the active encryption of the Kale Mandalay. So when you enter Adashi turnaround, what you're doing when you do that, when you're activating your plasma body, you are turning on all these wheels and all the parts of all these wheels. And, if you're a firebender, well, you probably have the fire element virtues activated in your template, because it might not be everybody has everything activated. This is like your DNA. Portions of these things are created to create its own thing. Like you wouldn't have everything at full blast. It's all different combinations, and I have more, I might have more air or water in me. And so those attitudes and responsibilities and virtues and noble traits that correspond with those elements are going to be where I find the most resonance and the easiest to integrate, right? And like maybe I'm still learning firebending. I don't know. I'm just making this up. But so working with those virtues and attitudes and responsibilities might be more of a challenge for me, or it might be I'm the most attracted to them because I know it's what's missing from my template.
Yeah, but all that's an attitude, right? How many times have I ever asked myself or convinced myself, I don't want to do this thing, I don't want to do this new skill because I'm not good at it yet? It's just a terrible attitude, because I love that you said maybe I would be drawn to the things that are most difficult because that's what I know I need the most. That's beautiful. May we all get in that space so we can accept it that way, right?
Amen. That's not Taisha into Dore. So
Yeah.
So I wanted to look at the structure, right? Our structured bubble. So this is where Leona and I looked at last video. We went through, and these are like micro pages where there's like 4 pages on one page. So we looked at all this and how we go from one 15-dimensional time matrix all the way up to this one over here, the Cos-My-yah. So we looked at the Cos-My-yah. So this Cos-My-yah body, because you have this in our field too, like we're looking at the cosmic structure, but you have this too. This is the same thing as your Auger hydroacoustic body. These correspond, which is your water sound body, which is the parameter field of you, basically. It's like the water field. Hold on a second. Yes, dear.
Where are the times? Like the night times?
They're either in this red bin here or they're behind the couch upstairs. No, out there, at the bottom of the steps. They're either right there. Yeah, they're either in that thing or they're upstairs behind the couch. Probably behind the couch. Can you close that?
Yeah.
Thanks. So like if you were source and you were floating around looking at everything you created, what you would see are all these Auger hydroacoustic bubbles in your field. And if you wanted to go and like, hey, I wonder what's in that bubble, you would go up and you could kind of peek in and see, oh, this is Earth. I don't know, whatever it is in there, but the hydroacoustic bubble is like the void field or the localized source field for the creation that is created inside of it. You could say it that way.
Yeah.
So these group together into the structure of the first 8 cells that we learn about in spirit body anatomy, right? And this is called the Cos-My-yah. And this is where, when we talk about the 7+1 eternal sons, this is what we're talking about. This is, we have, let me zoom in. We have 1, this is number 1 up here, then 2 and 3. I don't know, I hope you can see my cursor. And then on the bottom we have 3, and then we have 4, 5, and 6. 7 is in the middle, is this one in the middle, and then 8 is all around it, is the big one all around it, and the small one at the center, at the very core there. So that's why we call it the 7+1 sons. It's the 7, it's 7 Cos-My-yah. 1 Cos-My-yah times 7 equals 1 Cos-My-yah. So we have the 7 plasma sons of eternal internal creation, and then we have the 8th hidden sun, which would correspond with the first of the first 8 cells in spirit body anatomy, is the same thing as the 8th hidden sun. And that's here at the core. And so we have the halls of Cos-min-yahas, the first, and so this is like an 8-cell cluster within an 8-cell cluster.
Okay.
And so this whole thing together is called the Cos-My-yah. And the core in here is called the Cos-min-yahs. So these Cos-My-yah group into this structure here. So we have 4 Cos-My-yah around the outer. So we have it goes from the 7+1 to the 4+1. And these would correspond with the plasms, and these would correspond with those 5 levels of plasma anatomy that we were looking at. And these correspond with the plasms, right? The 5 plasms, or etaors, that create the plasmas. Plasmas come up here. Plasms are here. And so we have 4 Cos-My-yah that group around the outside, and then the center one is called the Ahu-Strija-Tahu, which just rolls off the tongue. And that's where we stopped last time. So these Cos-My-yah, to keep it going, group into what's called the Efi. And, I'm sorry, these, did I say that right? 4 Cos-My-yah group into 1 Ahu-Strija-Tahu, and then 3 Ahu-Strija-Tahu is what comes together to make Efi, the Effie, infinitum, which is here. And this, what does this look just like? What's the first thing that we made back when Source first started creating creation? We made the... Thank you. So all the way at the top, we get back to what we could think of as the first Particle unit, which when we think about its first creation, we usually picture as a microscopic particle. And that's true. It is that. But I don't know, we kind of learn as we go through these teachings that the thing that is the smallest at the very core is also the biggest thing that's around the outside of it all.
Oh, that's so cool. Of course it is.
And so this Effie to me is that big outer thing that is being created from the creation of that first microcosmic particle.
You know what that reminds me of? This is kind of a trick question. I think it's like maybe late adolescence it becomes popular when you start learning about science. But there's an egg, like a chicken egg. Is it the same cell is the trick question. Well, obviously it's made of, you know, billions of cells or however many is in there, but they all have the same code in it. So technically the yolk is...
Sorry. Yeah. So this is showing you, and I'm glad you used that egg analogy because the Effie is like that. It's kind of like an egg because we're going to find out that this Effie is actually like the yolk of an egg because there's a larger thing called the Ureta body that would be the whole egg. Okay, it's the field in which the Effie is. So, this is just another way of drawing more of the stuff of the guts that are in the Effie. This is the same.
More of the stuff of the guts. I love it. That's awesome.
Okay, so that's our 3-ball phase set, right? And just as a side note for all you freedom teaching nerds, so you know in the first 9 days of creation sequence when we're actually seeing how the light body form, and it teaches, it starts with that first particle, and then and the balls that, and then what's after it creates the triad, right, which is the 3, which is just like this Effie. And then the next one is the dyad, right, would be next, which is the same, it has the same geometry as this Cos-My-yah, right, as this Ahu Strija Tahu. It's 2 particle together, but the center ball is in the same spot. So technically the dyad has 6 balls and these only has 5, but the geometry looks the same. So I don't know, I just thought it was an interesting correlation because you get that center sphere with 4 spheres around it. And out in the light body, that inner sphere is polarized, but here we have a unit. It's not that. It's not polarized up here in these fields. But so I wanted to show, because pretty much everything else that we can talk about Effie, and there's a lot to unpack here, is looking at the Effie in a graph that shows the different spectra. And this is where we also can see what's internal and external creation. So I want to find maybe the best place to start with these.
You're still in that same handbook we just got, right?
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
What page are you on? I just can't see the screen that small.
Well, I haven't picked a page yet.
Oh, you're going to never mind.
I'm trying to see which is a good place. All right, let's look at this one. Page 191. If you have your KDDL2 manual, please turn to page 191. And if you do not have your KDDL2 manual, it is available for purchase for $88 at the Arrayus website. You don't have to buy the whole workshop. You can just get this manual, which is almost 400 pages and is well worth $88 in my humble opinion.
You were just saying earlier today, we could probably talk about this and learn from this manual literally for years.
Yep, you really could.
Just scratch the surface. So,
yep.
Yeah.
Okay, so this little drawing here, graph here, so we're looking at now, we have Effie, right? This is what we were just looking at on the other page. The Effie infinitum. So Effie is just an acronym. It's not like the name of source. It's just an acronym, and it stands, one of the things it stands for is Eternal First Field Intelligence. And so we see this, what's called the Panic-Chi flux wave field, which always reminds me of Back to the Future with the flux capacitor, which kind of looks like this but anyway, so the Panic-Chi flux wave field and the Effie infinitum. So so you have all this stuff in your fields too, right? And when your Trua, so your Trua body has to do with time waves, and this all gets into time vectors and time waves. So this little sentence here says the activated Trua time wave flows of the eternal Panic-Chi flux wave field and the Effie infinitum. So this reminds you a little bit of the spirit body flows, but these are even pre-plasma, these are the Chi wave flux fields that come before spirit body. But echo its anatomy, it looks similar. And so this is where we see the chions. So remember the orons and the,
yeah, okay.
So this ring here, this, can you see that? I can find a better diagram if you can't. So this is the chion ring right here. And the chion has these, what do they call them? Chatru? Is this the Chatru points? They're like the plasma generator balls. But these are the chion, this is the chion ring, this right here. And corresponds with what, the number 4 of the 5 layers in the plasma body. But so anyway, this flashes off and on, and I'm still learning what these Chi waves actually are, but my understanding of them is that they're kind of like the holders of the eternal laws that the Christ code is built on, if that makes sense. Like, we learn all about the Christ code, and then at the very end there, KDDL or somewhere, we get the Nomi code, and we find out that the Nomi code is actually the precursor to the Christ code. I don't know, it's bigger, or I don't know. It doesn't.
I think it's a density above, because if I remember correctly, the Kara-Yasa-Tahala tones that go into the Christ code is stepping down from density 4, dimension 12, lower than that. So maybe the Nomi code is Rasha body to Avatar body. I don't know. I'm not sure. Don't quote me on that, but I thought it was something along those lines.
That would make sense. That's interesting. Okay. So, like, the Nomi code would have to do more with the 15, and the Christ code would have to do with the 12.
That feels like it might make sense to me, but I don't really know if that if that is accurate. So
I don't know either. I know that there are 24 chi waves. I believe there's 24 because there's two sets of 12. Yeah. So that's one thing we'll be exploring in our study groups. What are the chi waves? And so Fe is a phase set. Fe is a phase set, which means the center ball is stationary, and then the other two balls phase. They move back and forth. They come out from the center at a 45-degree angle from vertical, or you could say 90 degrees from each other, and then they phase together, and then they pull up into the center. And so when this whole vocabulary about the elf, the love, the LUV, the lila, the Trua, the passages that it makes, the sheets, all of this has to do with the different phase positions of the Fe. Okay, opens, eyes. When you cross two circles, you get an eye, right? When two circles cross, you get the eye. And so when Fe starts to phase, you open different eyes that bring in and connect the core of Fe into the core of the other two balls through those eyes. This is what we're looking at here. So when the Fe starts to phase and you get overlap, you get these four. I was drawing these like last year. Me and, is my buddy here? Yimmy? We were drawing these, right? The four.
Yeah.
I'm not going to find it, but you can see it there. And so this is just showing this isolated, where we get these four petals, and this is where the passage of the 8's is. The passage of the 8's is these points. Wait, it might be labeled. Just so you can see where these come from. Yeah, here. Oh, it's not labeled on this one. It's labeled on one of them. I can't point. I wish you could see what I'm pointing at on my screen.
You know, I was thinking we'll figure out a better solution in the future, but there's a mouse cursor that highlights, so when you're doing
Oh, really? Oh, yeah, that would be very useful. Yeah. So when we were talking about the passage of the 8's, that's this here. So the passage of the 8's opens when these three center points connect. Because these have little 8-cell clusters at the center. That's why it's called the passage of the 8's. It's when those are all three of them activate and connect. It connects and combines these three Fe balls, essentially. That's what the passage of the 8's is about. And everything that has to do with the lila, Lila, is the first phase, what would it be? It shows you. And then then it gets a little more phase together, and that's Trua. That's Trua activation. It has a bigger eye, more of an overlap. And so what time is it? 3:20. Okay.
We're like an hour and 20 in.
All right.
Something like that.
So this all has to do with time and what's behind time, the background field in which time wave vectors exist. And so over here, we are here, in this one over here, and where do we see one of these just all by itself? Oh, here. Let's look at just one. So we're going to zoom in on just one Fe ball, okay? And we're going to look at, so I guess we're seeing the Fe balls here, and then we're seeing these oval shaped rainbows. So I don't know if everybody knows what those are, but maybe we should say.
Please do. I don't. I mean, maybe I do, but
Yeah, you do. You do. There's a reason it's oblong and not circular. There's like a mathematical reason why it forms like this. It's not a mistake. But this is the structure of a 15-dimensional time matrix. This is, right? We have our 5 densities. This is how we see the time matrix when we're looking at it in its bubble shape, or its, its auric fields, instead of looking at the Cathar grid bones and the spectrum that it makes. So we have red, orange, yellow, green, right? So we have density 1 is, so we could like even go back in Cathar and to understand this, and why density 1 and density 5 are in the same place. They're like in the same ring, right? And then we have 2 and 4 in that same ring, and then we have that 7, 8, 9 at the center, density 3. And so but the point here is that center point, which is actually density 3, is this core connection point. And it's the reason why our 3rd chakra is also that core connection, because it kind of corresponds there. And it's like Source never, when it wants to make a 7, it doesn't go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Source goes, okay, 4 in the middle, and then it has it's 1 in the middle, but it's going to be the 4th, and then it has 3 that come out one way and 3 that come out the other way. So that's the same thing that's happening here with the 5, I guess you could say. That core point, that center point, where it corresponds with dimension 8, which is why that middle ball is gold.
Azure, that's where we enter the matrix.
Yeah, right.
The time matrix.
Right. So the same way that we have that dual existence happening, where 1 and 5 are actually in those same areas, just on different angles of particle spin, right? In that same way, we have internal and external existing, but you could maybe think of it more like a concave or convex sphere. So when we look at just this spectra over here, this is where our part of the cosmos is located, is on this side. And this, it's actually showing you see how it has 2 different colors? It's got the red, orange, yellow, green, blue, and then it's got a pink, a yellow, a teal. It's a little bit different. That's trying to show you the internal versus the external. And even though they're existing in the same place, they're not open to each other usually. But the internal, when they label it as the one that's more towards the center of this Fe. So like this half over here is what they call the internal, and this half over here is what they call the external. Let me see if I can zoom up. So when we're talking about linking to the deity planes, this is what we're talking about. We're talking about our external creation, chelantic anatomy, linking with this chismatic tryptoplasmic internal creation anatomy that's here, that's still part of our same Fe ball. Okay, these are our deity planes. It's like a perfected version of external creation. It's like the original intention for the external creation that's existing here is found in internal creation. It's like that perfected version of it. So it's also has a whole different matter base, and like the laws of physics like really works different, and it's much more fun. But So
it sounds a lot more fun in this dense suit. Yeah.
yeah, so maybe you can see, because of the way that like they're saying that externals out here and internals here, and connecting to internal links you into all of, like, we're linking into this part of Effie, this passage of the 8's and the Letu, Trua, Lila bodies and eyes, and all of this is happening through this internal connection of our Chismatic template with the external chelantic anatomy. And we've learned that the external chelantic anatomy of the location in space-time that we are is falling. Yeah? And so the opening of the deity planes is offering us a host field. So what it's basically doing is saying, hey, all you guys down there in density 1, everything else around you is headed for fall, but this host is coming around and being the density 2 and density 3 and density 4 for us, because if we try to link to the external version of it, that's not going to go well. So this host field is opening, and we are actually blending with our densities, our higher aspects, the version that exists in the deity planes. We following that? So
Yeah.
we're now going to be not activating our external light body anatomy. There's actually a little bit different, cooler light body anatomy that exists in the deity planes. It has a little bit of a different structure, but that's what that internal host is supposed to be doing. Like, that's how I kind of think of it, is that we can't go this way. The long way home, this external path of evolution or ascension that we would normally follow, is closed, road closed. So now what? Does Source, oh, that sucks for you guys? No. There's a balance, right? Eternal life is written into the code of creation. And so when something threatens the eternality of that life, I don't know if that's a word, when something threatens the eternality of life, it's built into the code that there's a threshold for that. Because if something's eternal, it's eternal. If it ends, it's not eternal. And so that isn't a possibility. And so built into the eternal creation code is a point at which things cannot be pushed further than this. And we met that threshold, not just us here on Earth, but like in the cosmos. This is a Cos-My-yah level thing that's happening. A certain quantum of our Cos-My-yah, which is that's huge. That was being pulled into fall, that was threatening the eternality of creation. So that can't happen. So the immune system of Source reacts, just like our immune system reacts. And the deity planes are opened into our reality field here, which is an amazing thing. And so now we're going to learn and remember how to use all of these things, and this is going to happen no matter what we do. But so we can, some will be able to biologically go through, but even if you can't, whenever this body dies, these will be the options that we have because of this host. We'll have many options and good places to go and continue on whoever it is, continue on that person's evolution in a place, that is not so fucked up.
You know, I like that you said too that this whole thing, I remember when I started hearing, because back in the day it was Eartha, the Aurora platforms and stuff were all part of what is called the fail-safe host, or the host for this stuff, and then it became Nomi, and now it's the whatever all these different layers of names for it are, is, you said, the immune system of source. Much like if my immune system is compromised, there are fail-safes. And in the case of like a fall matrix happening, there are built-in things that happen that even the intruder consciousness didn't know about. They had to discover and break it so bad that it was like, okay, realigning now. Sorry guys, not going with you anymore. And I think that I've really, almost anyone that I've wanted to be a co-student with on this process of figuring out what, can you help me explain these diagrams? Because holy moly, is that I think a lot of them, there's a lot of sticking points if the lesson that Guardians are learning right now is loving and letting go. It's not letting go of your relationships or vertical connection, it's letting go of this stuff. Like just the material universe of density 1 is like, I sure like this skylight in this room that I moved into recently. It's pretty cool. But do I need it? If I'm going to get attached to this, it's going to keep me stuck here.
Mm-hmm.
And these things often it'll sound like whatever spiritual paradigm that we grew up with. It's like, wait a minute, we have an evac mission. A what? No, that sounds like the rapture from this Abrahamic religion, or that sounds like this thing from Buddha, and I don't really like those flavors. It's like, well, if it's true, guess what? It's fine. It's all you anyway, so let's go. Let's go. Hug me, homie. Let's go home next cycle, you know? Let's stop doing this dance down here, you know?
Yeah, we had enough of this game. So we have this, just to touch on a couple of these terms that we're talking about. So we looked at what these rainbow looking things are, right? And these are representing the spectrum of electromagnetic frequency that makes up that part of creation. And so we had said at the 8, the D8, dimension 8 point, is the point where you find the elf love field. And so what that stands for, does it tell me? So the ELF, ELF, would stand for equilibrium lull force, and LUV stands for lowest unified velocity. So we have the equilibrium lull force, lowest unified velocity field is the elf love field. And this is where our Sun 8 frequencies come into play, and our passage of the 8's. And it's the point. So if you see this one electromagnetic spectrum, so we're looking at now, we saw up here that they divided this in half, right, into eternal chelontic, or external chelontic, internal chismatic. Okay, and so down here we're looking at the internal electromagnetic array. It's called an array on this level. Runs this way. Okay, I don't know, what would we say? Bottom to top. Let's say that it runs this way. So the other one, what is happening? The external one, it's flipped. So it's running top to bottom. So when you put them on top of each other, it's this section here in the center where you find the lowest unified velocity. This is the point where they're the same. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And so that's how we make this like connection point here at the center. And so That's what this little graph down here is showing. The waves of the elf love, the waves of love elf, love, and the quanta retata rotation. Oh, and just as a side note, this is also why what made me want to look into infrared saunas is because it's the infrared spectrum that this D8 elf love field is riding on, is found within, is the infrared spectrum.
I did not know that. That's really cool.
So yeah, I've been using the infrared sauna now for a while, and I really love it. But also infrared is
something real quick.
Yeah.
That elaborates on this.
Mm-hmm.
Is there an easy way to switch around my video? I guess I can turn it on or off. What if I hold this? Oh, there we go. Front camera, back camera. There we go. Okay. Maybe this will work. All right. So this is from a notebook of mine in 2008. I don't know if you can really see this though. Anyway, this is a way to put the scale of dimensions into a context. So 8 is right in the middle of 15 and 1, right?
Yep.
And then the low velocity down here is the function of magnetism. That is vibration. So actually, high vibration is at the bottom, because that's the function of the divine female in the broken part of the plasma body you were talking about. 8 is right in the middle where all these balanced things happen, and the electrical up at the top is actually low vibration, high oscillation. But the middle point where we enter the time matrix and where chakra 8 is in our azurite is 8. But it kind of contextualizes this just to put it on a scale. I think that picture that you had there is a better one. What did I just do? Yeah, sorry, I'm fat for hearing this. But yeah, it's all the same stuff. That one you just went through, Erin, too, is probably the best one I've ever seen to put an enormous amount of information on one or two pictures technically, but
yeah, and like every page of this manual is like this. It's amazing.
Yeah.
So here's where we get into the.
Heard of Ken Wilber?
What's that?
Have you ever heard of Ken Wilber?
Nope.
Well, anyway, he's an American philosopher, and his contribution was doing this interior-exterior contrast to show that the evolution of consciousness has an experience from internally, as it does that you can witness objectively, and it also has an individual and collective component.
I'm a big fan of Ken Wilber. Erin, I just told you about him a week ago.
Oh, you did?
But it was very brief, yeah.
What did you say?
Yeah.
What were we talking about?
Just how his work helps me contextualize my identity as all-oneness in a different way than anyone else in any other material has, and it's helpful in its small way. And Nate, what you're saying, the part of it that I identify and enjoy most is his, I don't know if you call it a graph, kind of a chart of just each level of consciousness.
I was trying to find a picture of it, but my notebooks are back in another room. But I think it's the beginning of this book called Sex, Ecology, Spirituality. Anyway, we'll find. It's kind of a minor derail. It's just an interesting point that all this information is being discovered by people independently right now because it's sparking up in our templates. We all have it.
Yes.
I came over much when I was younger too. He's the one that helped me bridge the gap between the apparent mutually exclusive way that we think of interior science and exterior science, or spirituality and studying the external world.
And he's been on this for decades.
For decades, yeah. He's great. We'll bring him up later. I really like that you're a fan of his too, because I don't know if I would have been ready to process this information. Much like Iesha said back in the day, the paradigms that you've been using to get to here are exactly what you are meant to let go of so you can expand to the next layer of relation.
Yes.
You know.
It was when I was at the top of the first tier. Do you know what I mean by tiers? Because he talks about 3 tiers of consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
So it was when I was at the top of the first tier when I found out about him. And that's when, similar to David R. Hawkins' work of measuring consciousness by muscle testing, it's when you're, and it's similar to Keylontic science, when you're at the top of this tier of, oh, you're still in these victim-victimizer games and you can't really perceive beyond it, but you know that conceptually people are talking about it and it is possible. So how do I get there? It's like, okay, you're high enough in consciousness that you can see the other side and you can desire it. Like, you can recognize that that's a trajectory that you want to continue towards. So yeah, it's been fun getting to track my development, so to speak, in that direction, using both David R. Hawkins' muscle testing levels of consciousness and Ken Wilber's levels of consciousness that's a bit more theoretical, but also taking it from a slightly different perspective. So yeah, second tier now is a ton of fun, and then it's like conceptually I can now grasp third tier, but I'm still not operating from that space. Super fun.
That's great. I love David, and also this will just be, how about a teaser for another set of videos we'll do one day down the road. But if you're familiar with how to do like any form of kinesiology, there's all sorts of ways we can intuit information that come from the 7 senses that we don't have fully active yet. But there's another one. This is a pendulum from Egypt. It's a combination of what the leadership of that culture used to carry, and it's a combination of what's called the waj and the jet that the pharaoh and the queen used to have. And there were 12 of the high council that were probably, I don't know, probably Knights Templar, Knights Malta, like intruder races, but they use this as a pointer. So with training, I can teach you how to use it and teach your body or your subconscious the difference between a yes and no spiral. And then you can ask questions of it. But this is like how they mined all the gold out of Egypt, that we have modern day satellites that are discovering these caverns underground. Like, wow, this was a gold mine. It's like 4,000 years old. But it's a cool thing, and I can teach you how to do it. And we could do like a whole set of series. I think it's just really cool that Erin was saying, like, hey, here's the goal of what we want to do here. No one's in charge. Clearly, Erin is like a core leader through this knowledge, but we're all just students working together. And when we all show up, the amount of absolute divine gold that we all have, uniquely too, will come out, and we'll find it if we hold that sacred space for it. So I'm just really excited that we're doing this. And I also want to keep myself in check, because I do have this thing that I do where I will just talk and talk and talk and talk. So it's not my turn at the moment.
This is fun.
This is really fun.
I mean, I really want to learn how to find my car keys easier.
Oh, dude,
Yes.
This is actually what I would do that for. Like, I was 19 years old, and I would go to house parties in San Diego, and I did not know how to talk to people at this time in my life. I was an extremely introverted, nervous person, but I did know I could hand them my keys that are charged with my energy, and because I learned how to use this, I can, like, mentally divide up the room and be like, are my keys in this room? Are they on this side of the room? Are they above me or below me? Are they outside the house? Are they upstairs, downstairs? And just by being a good detective, I could find them in, like, I don't know, a couple of minutes. And nothing will impress a room full of drunk people and get them to spend money and lose bets constantly. And if you can do this, but again, I forget that I can do this all the time.
Side income stream. Side income stream.
But also, it's not a very Christic way to do things, to gamble and bet on people that, I don't feel like it's a great energy exchange, because if I'm exploiting knowledge that someone is ignorant enough to take something from them, it doesn't make me feel good.
Well,
But to teach you how to do it for a small Patreon per month fee, hell yeah.
I think that's a whole nother conversation. We'll talk about that later.
I'm derailing. I'm sorry.
No, I mean about whether or not it's Christic to sell knowledge that comes from this place, but doesn't all knowledge come from that place?
Yeah, right? It's I think a lot of the copyright stuff is so that we are not inadvertently distorting this knowledge and then
Oh, definitely.
monetizing it,
Yeah.
you know?
Well, that's
But
what
yeah,
normally happens. Yeah.
yeah.
I just
I
read.
had experience. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead, you go.
Considering using an object to give you answers, I've never used objects because ever since I was even just 12 years old, my extrasensory awareness and abilities were tuned up pretty high. Not to the point where I actually was enjoying it and wanting it to happen, considering my cultural context, but as I've been able to find spaces to cultivate those as an adult, I am now feeling called to someday support people in learning how to just like how to know things just innately, not needing objects and just having that awareness. Because once we're identified, once our anchor of identity is rooted enough in God Source, in all oneness, in everything, then we can literally know anything and everything anytime that we need to. And so being able to trust and know that to a level of embodiment, to be able to have the answers just within your own body whenever you need it, is kind of this, I don't know, it's like a slightly different way that like having an object is, the way I see it, is fun and it's playful. It's very playful. Whereas the way that I have just naturally developed and discovered it in my own body is like can freak people out and can feel confusing and can feel overwhelming if somebody isn't naturally attuned to that or inclined to it.
That's a superpower. That's awesome, yeah.
Yeah, well, I really love this conversation. I am the instrument. Yeah, thank you for that share, Leona.
Yeah.
Yeah, because really, even the external thing, all this is, I could use a heart rate variability machine, which is a more expensive way to just show what's happening in my nervous system. But all this is a pointer to the instrument of me. It takes some skill and knowledge to use it, but there's nothing special about this. It could be a rock on a string. It could, but that's my prop for what's already.
Yes.
That's
yeah.
really, really cool that you had a very early understanding of that was going on. That's really cool.
Not understanding, just a happening. So it took a long time to understand, but yeah.
I also felt like I was going crazy, and other people would tell me that at different earlier points of my life. Just too much coming in, you know. Anyway.
Fun stuff. Back to you, Erin.
So, in just our little exploration of what's plasma body, and just trying to get a little familiar with all this stuff that we're looking at, we can recall spirit body anatomy, and we've looked at this little guy right here before, where we have these 7 balls, right, that's showing one vector. So Nate, just
the yuga cycles.
Yeah, and I just noticed in reading this manual that the word vector applies to the whole line. So, and the whole line across, it's 2 event horizons, and the word veka is one side. So there's 2 vekas in a vector, and I never picked that up before. But
is that the opposite direction that's coming from the middle and going out?
Yep, 2 vekas.
Kind of like we're upside down in the Cathara grid right now because we're going.
Yep.
Going like that.
Yep.
Gotcha.
Yep. So as we're defining our terms here, so a veka would be 1/2 of a vector. A veka has 1 event horizon, which is the turnaround point. So we emerge from the center and move to the outside. And when we get to the edge of this parameter field is the turnaround point, and we go back in. That would be 1 veka. And 2 vekas, which is the other half of the line, is a vector. And so this is showing you, you can see that there are 7 small spheres that are made out of solid lines. And then kind of in between those are 6 spheres made out of dotted lines. And what this is representing is actually only 1/2. Everything, those 7 solid spheres and 6 dotted spheres, there's actually 2 sets of those. So there's 2 7s and 2 6s because they're going in opposite directions, like, or on the opposite side of the plate. But the 7, so we have the 7 sons of Ettore, which is one vector line of solid balls. And then we have 7 sons of Adore, which would be our adjugate spirit. And so 7 and 7 makes 14. And the 2 7s are united through the central 1, which is the 15th son. And so the process of activating your plasma Trua, the Trua aspect of your plasma body, is the combining of the 7 Ettore materialized sons, the 7 Adore adjugate spirit sons, which are united through the central 15th sun at the core. And then we have these 3 bigger balls, which these are called hara bodies. And so the 7 come together, 7 and the 7 come together, plus the 1 is the 15, and they unite. And then these 3 come together. They come into the center also. So we're uniting Adore, the Hare Krista body from, the Kalihara body and the Mahara Risha body, all coming together, all in the center at the Hare Krista body. One, and that makes what's called one Hara Risha Iridana vector body. That is combining with the dark matter body. So this is all spirit body. So we have Kelantic atomic, Iridanus adjugate spirit, Rasha dark matter, plasma ethema merger is called TrhU-ah body activation. So probably our next couple study groups is just going to be talking about what the heck all that means. But the let's see. This whole deal is the same thing as a Dashi return that has been talked about since the beginning of the freedom teachings. TrhU-ah body activation begins with the same thing as a Dashi return is TrhU-ah body activation. It's the same thing. The different names. So, and TrhU-ah body activation has, I guess it says technically 8 stages. And we can look at those, but I just wanted to tie that into that spirit body thing and how that fits in. It's the pulling together of all of these things, and this is again happening through this host because our parallel is in Phantom, like has gotten pulled into Phantom. We can't merge back with our parallel because it's not there. So it's this host that is providing, basically you could think of it as like our deity plane's version of parallel, and the things that need to all come back together at the center, when this part over here is no bueno anymore, but over here, like, we're okay. This is the host is making up for that essentially and filling in all those gaps so that we can take the short way home essentially right in through the core. And all this stuff, all phases of this plasma body activation is happening simultaneously. It's not linear like going through a Dashi return, which happens one after the other, we're going through it. They're all activating at it simultaneously. They all started. And that's what we start to see with these graphs, what this looks like on the probability vector. So this is just what I was talking about how it moves out and then goes back and has all the labels of everything. This is one vector. And remember, we have actually 6 vectors or 12 vecas just on one, and there's actually 2, so there's actually 12, and then that's doubled, so it's 24, and this stuff is like mind-bogglingly huge. But this is that spiral. We were talking about the spirals, Yimmy, right? With the different, there's the crystal spiral with the 2-to-1 ratio, but then we also have these time wave spirals, and it looks different. It's a different spiral, right? But as we go around, these are the octant cycles that we get born, and then we're 8 years old, and then 16, and we go and we accrete, and we accrete vectors. And as we add vectors that we go through, we literally go out that vector and come back, and then we're going to go out this vector and come back, and we're going to accrete all those vectors into our template, and then our template is full, and we've now activated the whole thing and all the vectors, and now we, level up. That's what Adashi return is about. That's what evolution is about. That's what ascension is. And so you can see these keep getting bigger. So we start here at the blue sphere in the middle at the core, and the next size up is here. This is the inner. We move out one step, one time cycle, another next time cycle. The next time cycle has us hit this parameter field, and if we held on to all our quantum, we will have enough quantum thrust to make this leap that turns us back around, and we start these bigger accretion cycles. This is like our template is growing. We're accreting vectors and getting bigger. And so Adashi return cycles 1, 2, 3, same thing as first 3 levels of Trua body activation. Okay. Now we see this, now we see it happening with our spirit side as well. So moving out in the Kali Hara body side is our atomic body, atmic matter base. Moving out to the Mahararisha Hara body, the other way, is our spirit base, spirit matter base, right? When we're talking about, to our last conversation, the Partikai, the down phase, or the phasing of Partikai 1, makes the atmic currents. These are on the one side. The up phase of the Partikai 2 makes the spirit body base matter, spirit matter base. Yeah? So this is showing them together, both sides, these return cycles happening simultaneously on both sides. And then we see up here at the top, one of these eyes where these circles overlap, right? This is where we start to link back to the previous graphs where the eyes, we see the 4 eyes and the sheath of Lila and Trua that open. Okay, so we're going to skip all this talking about, just real quick, because we talk about the seeds. This Adashi, these 3 Adashi return cycles, these are Trua body activation cycles. These are also the embodiment of the seed cycles. So this one, we embody the silver seed. This one embodies the golden seed, golden silver seed, and then this one is the platinum seed. Adashi 1, silver seed. This corresponds with the Panclara cycle, which is that rainbow bubble of Effie that we were looking at. The other bubble and rainbow ball of Effie corresponds with the golden silver seed, Adashi 2. And then Adashi 3 is the middle Effie ball, or the platinum seed, or the Panacholera cycle. Okay. And that's what all these are talking about. This is showing you, this is where silver, this is our silver seed embodiment cycle, golden silver seed embodiment, platinum seed embodiment. And all of these have Merkabas that correspond to them. And your level of Merkaba activation is the thing that determines how many vectors of movement through creation you can travel on. And these Merkabas are crazy big. But they have their own specific Merkabas, and there's specific math to all of this, and geometry and vector numbers. So over here we see this is the first one, the silver seed, the quanta rotata rotation, change of axis of particle spin, change of vector, right? Quantum rotation, Pan-Clara Yuga Merkaba. This is 216 vectors of the D planes. This is blended Pan-Clara plasmatic. This is chelontic Chismatic crystal bridgeway plasma spectra. So it's that one Fe ball with the rainbows that's divided in two sides, external, internal. When those blend, that's this. That's all of the Pan-Clara ball. That's the whole one ball of Fe is the silver seed. This ball over here is going to be the golden silver seed. That's this one. Okay, and this contains 864 vectors. And this one over here has its own D planes, right? And so embodiment of the golden silver seed gives you this Merkaba in your field and allows passage and energy flow and all of that integrated into the two balls of Fe, right? Then we get the third one with Adashi return cycle number 3. So this would be called the Espatarata, one ever shining riding wave. The Panakai Merkaba, this is 1728 vectors of the Chi planes. So now we're in the unified the D planes. These two balls are D plane, internal D plane balls. Together in the central Fe is called the Chi planes, KHY. And that's a number that we're familiar with, huh? 1728. So through the progression of Trua flows accretion in each seed cycle, a corresponding transplanial Merkabic circulatory system and Merkaba vehicle grow. And through this, we become vectorless. By the time all of this is embodied, by the time we essentially are vectorless, which is the same thing as saying all the vectors. So the 8, they call them, she calls them 8 stages of Trua body activation, which is confused me for a while because I couldn't understand why are there 8? Because I was counting Adashi 1 as like that's the first, but she's counting the opening. This stands for the Kale-Akshate seals, which are the time template seals. That it's basically when whatever square rotates and turns to a diamond, that's what opens these the seals of Kale-Akshate. Because if you can think of squares stacked on top of each other, they don't interact, right? They're just squares stacked on top. But if you tipped those squares and made them diamonds, they would be pointing into each other. Their points would be touching, or even like crossing. And so that's how you open the Kale-Akshate seals. And the Quanta Rotata alignment rotation is all about the squares becoming diamonds, and that opens these currents. The squares all connect to each other because they move into this diamond rotation. So we're opening the seals this opens the seals into basically the deity planes or internal creation to allow these flows to start coming out to begin the embodiment of the silver seed, or you could say the Elasa flame. So that she's counting that as stage 1 and 2, or not she, the guardians, right? Like, I don't know what, I have to get my pronouns straight here, I guess. So stage 1 and 2 is the rotation and alignment of those time template seals that actually open up the flows in order to begin these other, and stage 3 opening the Panic-High passage, which was that 4-petal thing that we were looking at the center of the Effie when it starts to phase. That's the Panic-High passage. And so then stages 4, 5, and 6 are actually these: A1, A2, A3. So stages 4, 5, and 6 are where we see the Adashi 1, Adashi 2, Adashi 3, and the silver and the seed embodiments are stages 4, 5, and 6. The 3 Adashi, Akashi, Trua flows, accretion cycles, the silver seed, golden silver seed, and platinum seeds. And then stages 7 and 8 are the ephemeral cycles, the Ephia cycle and the Ephemation cycle. And so when all of this is done, this is the process through which our external creation transfigures through our, at the atomic level, into our eternal authentic form, where we this body becomes eternal. If it becomes ephemeralized, that basically means your atomic structure is transfiguring into this form that is eternal. And malleable, changeable. It can be anything. It's a conscious wave, is what it is, and it doesn't necessarily have like a body like this of atoms that we think of, but okay, so here we see that eye. This is that eye of Lila, right? This is what happens when we get through Adashi 3. This opens, and then these are gonna, this is the beginning of the phasing of the Effie, our Effie, right? If it's, we're talking about our field, we could look at this on a cosmoversal level, or we could look at it on our level. And so when we're doing this in our field, we open this eye of Lila in our field. I'm not necessarily talking about the cosmoversal one, right? We're talking about our bodies and our fields, and our little eye of Lila that opens in our fields is quantumly entangled with the big eye of Lila that takes up all the cosmos. And so this one, as it gets more phasing, this becomes the eye of Trua. I don't know if it's on here. Oh, this is showing you the balls, the squares and the diamonds, and how they rotate. These graphs are really, like, I haven't even got to break them down yet, but and then talks a lot about the long way home and the short way home, and how this is normally what we would do, except this is all happening all simultaneously for us right now. Like, this is thousands of years this takes, but it's all happening at the same time and is available. All of these frequencies are available, and that's a really mind-boggling thing to consider. You want to say something, Nate? Guess not. No. Oh. Well, I can keep on talking, but I feel like maybe we're at a saturation point. Do you guys want to ask questions? Do you want to like tell me about any what you're interested in here or what you might want to talk about next time? Look at this. This is beautiful. Eye of Trua. Go ahead. Oh, here we go. Wait, real quick. So we have Fascia cycle 4, this bigger one here, and then the Affirmation cycle 5. This is the hugest one. And so the Eye of Lila opens with Fascia cycle 4, and then the Eye of Trua is the Affirmation cycle 5. And then that's the end of Trua body activation. That's the whole thing.
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
When we do a luminary breathing, for example, from my understanding, we blend the 3 quintessences, which are the violet fire, green crystal, and all those. And when we blend them, how does that look relating those diagrams on the video? Because I've never really sat down and like looked at them and like thought about luminary breathing and all that.
Yeah, do you happen to have those diagrams or graphs about you're talking about the essential essence, the 5 quintessences?
Yeah, yes, that's what I was talking about.
I don't have that up to show everybody. I'll jot it down though. I'll pull it up and we could look at it. It's going to be hard to talk about without explaining to everyone what that is, but I don't even know if it talks about it in this. Where does that, is that in KDDL3?
It's started with they first got introduced in the Fascia 5th anniversary, and then she talked about them, I think, in the KDDL. It's after, I think, 2016 or 2017, and KDDL 2 ended in 2015.
Yeah,
so
that's.
I don't think you can find it here.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I know what you're talking about. We'll look. I'll find out. We'll look. And that's in the anniversary note. He's talking about the 5th anniversary note. It's posted on the Arrayus website. It's public. You can read it, and it talks about the essential. Is it the essential essences and the quintessences?
I give it here. The Rainbow River 5 essential essences transposition flows.
Mm-hmm.
And so you have the so the first is the luminescence first essence, which is, I think, all of them. It is pre-plasm aqua eta vapor, and then you have the aqua essence, which is carried, from my understanding, by the transposition flows, and when you do the luminary breathing, it is carried by the blue pure, which is pre-plasm white air eta vapor.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have the 3 elemental quintessences, which are, from my understanding, the pink plasma, and they are the ephemera quintessence 1, which is pre-plasm blue water eta vapor. Then you have pre-plasm green crystal eta vapor, and you have pre-plasm violet fire eta vapor.
So the way I understand them are, when we were looking back here at this structure, and we talked about that this one Ahu Strija Tahu here that is made out of 4 Cos-My-yahs and the one at the center. So these 4 Cos-My-yahs and the one at the center, the 4 plus 1, correspond with the 5 plasms, no A, which are the first 5 steps of materialization. You guys see, you know this chart where you start with like it's pre-substance state 1, plasm 1, cool, crystalline, eta aura. This is the feeling, the emotion that becomes notion, that becomes thought, that becomes idea gel, and then idea crystals. These are the plasms. These are this Cos-My-yah. The essences that you're talking about are the pre-plasms. So they are the step before the plasma, these 5 plasms. You have these 5 essential essences. The vapor, they're a vapor base, like more vapory than the plasms are. But we don't. I've never seen it drawn as a this. Like I've never seen it represented anywhere in the work, like drawn in a picture. Have you?
No, I just remember reading the fail-safe note and like just reading a page and then feeling dizzy and like my whole speaking from all the information. I felt how, you know, like the truth in that thing. I don't know, and it was from my understanding, those are like all the substances that everything like steps down from.
Yeah.
And I started also doing the eternal ancient eye breathing, which steps down into your etheric duct system. That was introduced in Sliders 1, I think, when she started talking about that thing you said about the plasmas and pre-plasmas that become feeling emotion. And I think that really started. I started getting physical results a lot when I started combining elementary breathing and like the eternal ancient eyes breathing, because it really like knocked it into my body, and I feel how my matter starts like densifying every time. It's really amazing.
So you're saying you were combining the stuff that she was discussing in Sliders 1? Is that what you said?
Yeah, I was combining the in Shift Masters.
Mm-hmm.
I remember, you know, that was when that was introduced. But then recently I watched Sliders 1, and I was like, that literally connects to Shift Masters. It's like a direct connection. She was talking about the spleen and like the azure and like the duct systems and stuff.
Yeah, the etheric duct system. Yeah, it does connect directly, because the Sliders is all about the Age hydroacoustic body, right? Which is that's basically the beginning of plasma body. That's like the localized source field in which individuated creation forms. So like and so connecting that with the stuff from Shift Masters, which is where we learn about like the thought manifestation, right? And like what are thoughts, what are they made out of? Those things are definitely connected, because that's what these thoughts become. The feeling, emotion, notion, thought clouds, idea gel, idea crystals. That's 1 through 5. Step 6 is the protoplasm, is the pre-substance compound conscious hydroacoustic with an E, protoplasm, living water. So this is your Age hydroacoustic body, is step 6. So yeah, like what, like that. Do you see what I'm saying? That it's
Yes.
yeah. So yeah, those are absolutely directly connected. One creates that's what basically what you learn in Shift Masters. You learn how that Age hydroacoustic body that we talked about way back in Sliders got created. Like what comes right before that. Yeah, they're definitely
Yes.
linked.
I was watching Sliders 1, like the whole after like watching Shift Masters, and I was like, oh my god, this is literally Shift Masters.
Mm-hmm.
It was literally so connected, and like all the plasma. Fascinating.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love finding those connection points. Anybody else have a question? We can. I'll try. Let me write it down. I gotta write shit down. About. I'll get the info on the essences, and we can share that next time. Essences. Anybody else want to ask a question or throw out something that maybe you want to talk about? That's we haven't brought up yet today.
I think this has been pretty. Can you hear me right now? It seems
Yep.
like my mic.
I can hear you. Yep.
You can.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I think that in general, I mean, this is just completely awesome. I am noticing that about 40 minutes ago, so approaching the 2-hour timeline is, I think we're about my saturation level occurs when seriously studying it, and I feel like I just want to go and take a nap for a while and let things integrate. Because as soon as I feel sleepy, I know that's what's happening.
Yep.
And just hold the focus on it, and then I'll probably wake up in an hour or two and be like, oh, I learned a thing, or something like that. But I really, really love the format of this, and I guess I don't really have something specific. I think we'll just kind of figure it out as we go. But just in general, just kind of let everyone who's part of the group gently guide the conversation forward for what we're all looking to get more insight on. I think is the way to go.
Okay. That's what I would like to do. That's why I haven't done this before, because I don't want to like decide what everybody should learn and then talk at you. I'd like to learn together, and in order to do that, I need to know what everyone's curious about, So.
I have a question. This is regarding the picture of the void, the flames of Judea. So in it, let's, for example, take the first one, which is like the pinkish bush. And when I look at, like each cover, I see it as like a different aspect of the void. So the pink of frequencies, it's like the step up from the true frequency. Like the void step down and then like become the different frequencies we study. And like the pink is the Trua, then which is the TrhU-ah, and there are also like ish, and I see the green as the crystal, and like the crystal essences, and then you get a bit of that. I don't know what the. Then you take the like more the latest boy, which is like more perfect, which is in the Host-Master Suite, and I see that as like the Illuminator version of the boy. And I don't know, I just wanted to ask you if you think like different covers have like different corresponding frequencies behind them. Yours.
Are you talking about the transposition and what's the other one?
Yes.
The pink and the blue. Yes. And if they have correspondences with what?
So when you look at the picture of the foil, and you know how it's like flowing, like it gets like pink and blue interflowing.
Yeah. So you're talking about the foil, the codes, the actual codes themselves, that they were done with an acrylic pour. She did them as a pour, so it looks like, and it's got, one is more pink, one is more blue. Yeah. Or yeah. Okay. So go ahead. So those are the foil flames. Yep. And do they correspond with what?
They correspond like, so in each of the the emancipation and the transposition, when you look at them individually, it's like one side is more pink, like it has like pinkish colors. Mm-hmm. I was wondering if each of the colors represents a different type of frequency, because it's like a screenshot, but what is that a screenshot of?
Yeah, definitely. That's what that's what colors are, right? They define a frequency. So for sure, and they do correspond um, with those the breathing. What's the breathing? The wind of the breath with the passages, the blue, and you bring them together and make the violet. Yeah, yeah. I don't know. We could look at that and find out that specifically the pink and blue and violet, those they're calling them passages, and they're definitely like very relevant to the work right now because it's literally like that's the gate passage, right? That's where all the time portal passages are located inside of. But I don't know like what pink and blue and violet like what spectrum or what array or what are those like made of. I don't know. Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, I was asking that, and in the KDDL 3, in the latest sections, she was explaining that the foil are like they are 8 frequencies and they are step down version, and they're also like so you have the trumpet waves, and then how was the pink code that was sketching trumpet waves? Um, the chevron bursts, yeah, and I think the foil are a mixture of the 15-dimensional version of the Eurolake Conservatory.
That's kind of what I thought, honestly. Yeah.
That's interesting.
Primal sound field, primal light field, and it's like the boundary of everything. I thought, but if you said there were 8?
He's talking about the foy flames, the flicker flame activations. Yeah, and there were 8. There were 8 flicker flames like along our, and I'll have to go and look. I don't know the answer.
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to know.
Yeah, but we can explore that. Yeah, that's it. And because we are gonna look. We don't have it yet, so we took we looked here up to the FE, but we have to get to those bright flower gardens. That's our goal. So we'll look at that. We'll look at that next time because this is what you're talking about has everything to do with what's right after the FE, which gets into the U's, the YHU bodies, the Ureta bodies. So I'll see if I can get those together for next time. We'll look past the FE. I mean, this is everything in here. There's so much. But it's also related to host masters right now because this is where you can understand that in the journey in host masters that painting that's a long skinny one at the bottom that's divided into 5 sections that she says is the eternal life cycle where you go in and you breathe your water vapor onto it and dissolve the painting and breathe it back in. That what you're doing is breathing in these 5 time arrays that we're looking at here on the screen. So the 2 bottom FE balls each have 2 arrays, ARRAYS arrays, and then the 5th one is the center ball. But that blue bar at the bottom, that where we dissolve it and breathe it back, that's representing these five arrays. That's what she calls them. It's a strange word. It doesn't come out of my mouth very easy. Array. She says it different. She says array or something. She says it different. Yeah, I don't know.
Speaking of blue, I'm getting a magnetic wave right now and I'm shaking. It's very cold. I don't know. I'm getting a magnetic right now. Like some sort of download now. I just can't stop shaking.
Oh, wow.
That is very cool. So yeah, we'll look at the, what did I say? We need the Ureta, we need the U's, we need the hue geometries, pictures to look at. So that those aren't in here in this KDDL2 manual. I guess we didn't get to that in here. But that's where the bright flower gardens are, and the chevron pulses, right? That's where we see that structure. So we'll have to find that. All right. Anybody else want to throw something on the list? If not, we're gonna end this party.
This has been awesome.
But I appreciate you all joining. Many blessings and much love.
So much.
Thank you. It was amazing.
And
Great to hang out with you all.
thanks for being here. We will talk again soon.
Super stoked to meet everybody. See you next week.
Thanks, Nate. Yeah. All right. I'll send a message in the group. Yep. About the next one. All right. Bye, guys.
Awesome.
Bye.